Assassin's Promise by Thomas Woodward. Chapter 26. Millie felt at her neck. A giant opal sat there. It gleamed from a choker chased in fine silver. Delicate gloves covered her hands, made of a fine white silk. Half expecting what she would find, her fingers felt a tiara encircling her brow. She was dressed in a magnificent gown of dazzling white with pearls and diamonds encrusted into the bodice. Spinning in a twirl, she marveled at the beauty of the gown, the ease with which her movements carried her forward in the wonderfully light fabric. Looking up from her dress, she noticed a pedestal with a darkly glittering gem. A split second of memory warred at her mind for an instant. Then it was gone. What had that been? She looked again on the gem laying at the center of the stone pedestal. It was immense. With it she could easily purchase a kingdom. There seemed to be something she could almost make out at its center. Why did she have a strange feeling of déjà vu? Had she been here before? Looking up from where she stood, she saw an immense, gargantuan cavern. Filtered light poured through the openings in the ceiling, surely thousands of spans above her head. Radiant pools of an unknown substance lay scattered across the floor of the magnificent cavern. Why could she not see into them? They gleamed like burnished silver, but she could not see into their depths. Another flash of memory startled her. A splinter of something she had seen was there and gone again in an instant. After the blinding moment passed, an after-image lingered in front of her eyes, but she could not make sense of it. What had she seen? Turning her mind away from the sudden glimpse, she looked back at the cavern and brought her eyes down to the pedestal. She must take the gem for herself. She took a step forward, then hesitated. Something felt wrong in her middle. Turning her back on the pedestal, she looked in the other direction, looking for an exit. Her gaze fell on a stone pedestal with a heavy gem. No! What was going on? She looked in another direction, and her gaze fell again on the stone pedestal. It stood there, unmoving, waiting. Millie looked down at her arms. The silk began to smoke and curl, turning a dark black. She heard a scrabbling of insects, a buzz that rose to a whine like a million gnats buzzing in unison around her in a cloud. In terror, she clawed her garments, hoping to stop the process that had been started. The silk fell away to the ground before melting into a polished pool of silver. She could see into its depths and screamed in horror at what she saw. With a jolt, Millie came awake in her tent. She could just hear the cry of a bird in the night. Still feeling the nameless terror, she saw movement outside the tent. The tent flap parted to reveal Kayana, who slowly moved into the tent. She had a compassionate expression on her face and placed her palm on Millie's forehead, making shushing noises as she put her arm protectively around her. Millie felt the fear recede as she could hear the steady beating rhythm of Kayana's heart, held in a tight embrace. Kayana slowly covered Millie again with her blankets and began to sing a low tune, holding her hand encouragingly until she fell asleep again. Compassion and light. Tenderness would lead to strength. Kayana would blow that flame into a blazing bonfire. Looking silently above her, she listened again for the cry of a bird. All she heard was the quiet breaths of the young woman, who had fallen into a deep sleep. Kayana formed a symbol in the air over the child. She clenched her fist for earth, which gave strength. Her hands moved outwards and away from the young woman to represent fire for compassion. And finally she made a crescent with her two hands to form sky for dreams yet to come.